All right, everybody, welcome back to RCT Creations for episode 3 or flight 3 of my coaster rankings. No RCT today, unfortunately, but we will get back to that. Probably not next week, but the week after. If you're unfamiliar, I've released 2 episodes already, but I will explain it again because if you're just joining us, you might go back and watch those. This might be the first one you're watching. I put out a poll on YouTube asking everybody if they'd like to see my coaster rankings. As of right now, I have ridden 241 different coasters heading into 2026, and I have never ranked them. But we are doing that now. And what I did was I took the 241 and broke them off into about 50 coaster sections. So we've had 2 flights already. This will be the 3rd. And the top 10 from each flight will move on into the final round. So far, we have Mamba at Worlds of Fun, Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point, Maverick at Cedar Point, Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point, Millennium Force at Cedar Point, Renegade at Valley Fair, Prowler at Worlds of Fun, The Beast at Kings Island, Raptor at Cedar Point, Diamondback Kings Island, Intimidator 305 at Kings Dominion, Fury 325 at Carowinds, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, Grizzly at Kings Dominion, The Boss at Six Flags St. Louis, Afterburn at Carowinds, Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America, Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Monster at Adventureland, and Goliath at Six Flags Great America have all advanced, and we are moving in here. To separate the coasters and rank them, I'm using a bias sorter that I will link in the description of this video in case you might want to do the same. But the first 2 episodes have been about 55 minutes apiece, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this one. I'll try to give a little bit of background on each coaster the first time they appear, but in the interest of keeping the videos a reasonable length, hopefully under an hour, we're going to go into it. As you see right up here at the top, we do have 50 coasters in 101 through 150 up top there, and we're going to go ahead and get started. We have Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great Adventure, and then the Joker at Six Flags Great Adventure, so I do have them abbreviated right here, and I will try to make sure I mention that, because some of the abbreviations are a little bit off. But to get this kicked off, we have the standard SNS 40 free spin layout against the standard, I guess kind of the default B&M flying coaster layout. It's hard to say default, but I think it's the most common. I think there's 4 Superman clones out there. The first one, not the first one, Great Americas has already been sorted. That was in the previous episode of 51 through 100. But we have the second one, and going up against the standard 40 free spin, Superman Ultimate Flight is without a doubt the better ride, especially with that pretzel loop. Now we have Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure and Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great Adventure right here. And I think between these two, Nitro is okay. It's a pretty standard layout. And Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great Adventure, also a very standard layout. There's a lot of these across different parks. And now that I think about it, I think I may have missed Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great America in the previous episode. I must have missed that one being included. That's unfortunate. But either way, we will continue on. Between these two, I would definitely say Nitro is the better ride, although I think it's closer than a lot of people would think. But we're going to go ahead and pick Nitro in that one. Next up, Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags Great Adventure and Skull Mountain at Six Flags Great Adventure. Between these two, Runaway Mine Train does have kind of a Magnum Triangle hill, although I can't really call it that because Runaway Mine Train was built before Magnum was. It has a Ron Toomer coat hanger hill on it. In Skull Mountain, I rode in the back. I only rode it once, but I rode it in the back seat, and the pull off of the first drop is actually insane. So if you're near Great Adventure or want to go to Great Adventure, ride this thing in the back row. Actually crazy. When we rode it, the skull at the top of the theming, or the top of the building, still had a jaw. Does not now, at least unless it's been replaced, which I don't think it has. But between these two, I'll pick Runaway Mine Train. Wow, we are getting right into the tough ones from Great Adventure on this one. King Ka, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. El Toro, phenomenal ride. Intamin prefabricated wooden roller coaster, the only one of its kind in the United States. King Ka, one of 2 Stratocoasters that were built. I should say full circuit Stratocoasters. I think the definition of Stratocoaster includes full circuit. But one of 2 Stratocoasters ever built. The other, of course, being Top Thrill Dragster. El Toro is a very solid ride. However, when we rode it in 2024, it definitely, or 2023, I think we went in 2023, it had definitely begun showing its age. I like the ride a lot. The layout is phenomenal, but there were a couple bumps in the road. King Dakar, also a phenomenal ride. It's a one trick pony though, and it's fortunately for King Dakar, it's one hell of a trick. The launch is absolutely incredible. We went here just to kind of get the Top Thrill Dragster experience one more time, since Dragster was gone by the time we rode it. And unfortunately, 2 years later, at the end of 2024, King Dakar also gave its final rides. Although Top Thrill still exists in some form, King Dakar no longer exists. It saw a shiny penny on the ground and bent over to pick it up and did not stand back up afterwards. Between these two, I think I'll pick El Toro because it has a more complete layout, but this is a close one for me. El Toro it is. So now we have Talon at Dorney Park and Wild Mouse at Dorney Park. Wild Mouse, I want to say, is a Mauer coaster, because at first when I rode it, I thought it was a Mock Rides one, but it's not. I think it's Mauer. Talon is the earlier version of Patriot. If you saw the first episode, Patriot was in there. I tend to think Patriot has a better layout. That's just me, but I know a lot of people really like Talon, and Talon is definitely the better ride. Talon, of course, being a B&M invert. Now we have Steel Force at Dorney Park, the third of the Morgan trio of hypercoasters at the Cedar Fair parks. And then we have Possessed at Dorney Park as well. So this is an Intimate Impulse. Be the third one that we are looking at. Wicked Twister and Steel Venom were the first two. Between these two rides, Steel Force is definitely the better ride of the Morgan trio. I rode it in 2023 and 2024. In 2023, I remember being solid. Much like Mamba is, they have very similar layouts, but Steel Force's trims were still on. And when I went back in 2024, I was so disappointed to find out that they were still on even after it got the same exact controls upgrade that Mamba got, but Dorney still runs the trims. But between these two, Steel Force is better. When Possessed initially launches, it feels like it's misfiring. Like its acceleration is just so off, but Steel Force definitely the better of the two. Now we have the Hershey Park Wild Mouse, which is the exact same as Ricochet at Carowinds, which we saw in the previous episode. Then we have Comet at Hershey Park as well. Comet, of course, being the classic wooden coaster found there, and Comet is the better of the two in my opinion. Laugh Track is a Mauer SC2000, much like Phoenix at Adventureland is, not Knoebels, Adventureland. I do like Laugh Track. I like it way more than Phoenix at Adventureland. And then we have Jolly Rancher Remix, which I think is the best boomerang I have ever been on and that may ever exist. The Jolly Rancher lights in the station, the fact it yells a flavor at you when you go through after the Cobra Roll into the vertical loop, and it has like the scent thing, which I didn't really get a big, whiff of, I guess. However, between these two, Jolly Rancher Remix it is. Super Duper Looper and Great Bear. Great Bear, Hershey Park's B&M invert. Super Duper Looper, the first roller coaster on the East Coast to feature a vertical loop. It's a Schwarzkopf classic full circuit looping coaster. And while Super Duper Looper is a solid ride, it's another one of those one trick ponies where the vertical loop at the time was like the big thing, and it just kind of meanders through the rest. I mean, it's an okay ride. It's a very solid like first looping coaster, if you're just getting kicked off as an enthusiast. But Great Bear, I think, is a better ride. I like Great Bear's layout a lot. It's just so unique. The support structure is so unique on it too. But Great Bear is the pick here. Now Lightning Racer. Between these two, now they're very similar. They're almost like mirror images of each other. They do pretty much the exact same thing. But between these two, Lightning always wins the race, it seems like. I've ridden Lightning Racer probably about a dozen times. And I think I've only seen Thunder win twice in all of that. But between these two, I'd probably say Lightning is the better of the Hershey Park, of the GCI twin racer there. Skyrush and Stormrunner. Now we have a battle of the Intimates. Stormrunner being a Intimate hydraulic launching coaster. Skyrush being an Intimate hyper roller coaster. Now, I have ridden Skyrush. I rode it in 2023 and 2024, so I got to ride it with the old restraints and the new restraints. If it was with the old restraints, in a close battle, I'd probably pick Stormrunner. With the new comfy Intimate Restraints, it's not close. It is going to Skyrush. Back to King's Dominion. Twisted Timbers, Apple Zapple being a Mock Ride's Wild Mouse, just with a slightly different layout than the Wild Mouse at Hershey or at Carowinds. And Twisted Timbers being an RMC conversion of Hurler, which was in our previous video. And between these two, it's no contest. Twisted Timbers, phenomenal ride, built around airtime. Incredible ride. We have Green Diamondback at Lost Island and Flight of Fear at King's Dominion. Another Intamin hydraulic launch. It's our third one so far in this video. Flight of Fear being an LIM launch coaster at KD. Now, I did not ride it my first trip to King's Dominion. I was really nervous. I'm a bigger guy. I was really nervous I wouldn't fit on it, but after losing a couple pounds, I comfortably fit on it my second trip. And then this one kind of in my backyard. Green Diamondback, not that far away. I call it that because the old logo was Kings Island's Diamondback's logo. But Madugani, very solid ride. It's kind of a one-trick pony with the launch. However, it does have a full layout behind it. The launch obviously being the highlight. It's not the smoothest ride after launch, but it's hard to call it rough. It's kind of rattly is the way I would describe it. Much like the way I describe Flight of Fear. But I do think Flight of Fear has a more complete layout. And I like the Flight of Fear at King's Dominion more than I like the Flight of Fear at Kings Island. So that's what we're going with there. Now, we have Flying Viking at Adventureland, a Zamperla family roller coaster, and Zambezi Zinger Worlds of Fun. Now, Flying Viking is great for what it is. It's a family coaster. It's a good first coaster for a lot of kids, but it doesn't do anything. Like, there's no forces on this thing whatsoever. It's just a good view of the park from the center, although the interactions it does have with the water ride attached to it are really cool. Zambezi Zinger is a throwback to the original Zambezi Zinger. So this is the second one, not the original. This is the second one. This is a GCI wooden roller coaster. It was the first one to run the brand new Infinity Flyer trains from GCI. Features a Titan Track spiral lift, and then it has Titan Track around the spiral lift as well later. So like later in the layout, you go across Titan Track. And my problem with Zambezi Zinger is it is not smooth. It was not the year it opened, and it's still not. Although I wouldn't say it's aged any at all in the 2 years since it's opened. The layout on it, though, is great. Like, it's really whippy. It's got some great forces on it. The problem is the Infinity Flyer restraints as you go along. They tighten really bad, and it's uncomfortable towards the end of the ride, and it's really not smooth. Outside of that, the layout is great. In between these two, it's not even a contest. It's Zinger, but that's just kind of a description of the two. So we're gonna go with Zinger there. We have Max Force at Six Flags Great America and American Eagle Blue. Between these two, Max Force has the best launch I have ever experienced ever, and that includes Top Thrill. That includes King Dakar, or any LSM launch I've ever experienced. Any of the hydraulic launches. The SNS Air launch is by far the best. It's shorter, but it's so powerful. Although American Eagle, huge fan of this ride. I hope they never RMC it. I think the ride is great as is. It's probably the best massive wooden coaster I've ever been on. It actually has aged very well, and it opened in the early 80s. Intamin wooden coaster against Max Force. I love Max Force a lot, but I do consider American Eagle the more complete ride. And then diving down the helix after you go up and you hit the trims, and you start moving slowly, but you can feel yourself pick up speed. I'm a huge American Eagle fan, and that's the way I just missed the second part of that, but that's okay. I hope. I accidentally double clicked. My apologies, guys. If I can go back and see that would be awesome. Whoops. Anyway, so Battle 17 or 16, we have the Flash Vertical Velocity Six Flags Great America, or Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great America. Okay, so I did include it. It's just I had the split Great America between my two choices here. So the Flash Vertical Velocity is probably the second best Intamin Impulse I've been on. It's the standard layout with the twisting forward spike and the vertical rear spike. Although the holding brake on Flash does not work anymore. Batman the Ride at Great America is the original Batman clone. So this is, or you can't even call it a clone. It's the original. It's the first BM invert. Runs phenomenally well. They are crazy intense, and this one is probably the one that this one probably is in the top 2 between the clones of those I've been on. I know that sounds weird, but they all do run different. Batman the Ride at Great America runs hot. It's a great ride. That's the winner here. Now we have a battle of the wooden coasters at Six Flags Great America here. I really don't have a preference. Well, I do have a preference between the American Eagle sides. I prefer the blue side. But Viper at Great America is a replica of the Coney Island Cyclone. It's both of the wooden coasters at Great America are actually taken care of really well. I guess I can't really say that. They have 3 because Goliath is also a wooden coaster. But they're all taken care of really well. Viper runs great. It's lateral driven. It's a phenomenal ride. Although this may be kind of an upset, I do prefer American Eagle between the 2. So I'm going to go with American Eagle for the same reasons described for the blue side. The 2 first airtime hills are awesome. You just fly through the first 2 hills. And then that helix is also incredible. So American Eagle it is. So we have our first returner in Superman Ultimate Flight against Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Mako is a very, very solid B&M hyper. Runs great, has a very solid layout. Superman Ultimate Flight is a clone B&M flying coaster. The pretzel loop is basically the best part of it, and then it just kind of meanders around and just kind of showcases why flying coasters are, what they are. Between these 2, without a doubt, it's Mako. The airtime on it's great, has a good layout. I think the mid-course zaps off quite a bit of speed, but Mako is the choice there. Dark Knight is another standard layout Mock Ride's Wild Mouse. Features the same layout that Ricochet does, that Hershey Park's Wild Mouse does. Just inside with a couple Batman theming elements. And then Nitro at Great Adventure is a very solid B&M hypercoaster. Between these 2, I think Nitro is better. And we're going to go that way. The upwards helix on that ride is also incredible. Batman the Ride at Great Adventure, Dark Knight. Batman the Ride is absolutely going to win. When we rode this, it was pouring rain. And when we slammed into the brakes, you could see the water that had piled up on the front just fly off of it because it slammed to a stop so hard. But the Batman layout is pretty hard to beat, so we're going that way. Runaway Mine Train makes its second appearance, and we have Jersey Devil, the RMC single rail. I have been on 2 RMC single rails now. Jersey Devil was the first one, and I was not a fan. I'll be completely honest. I did not like Jersey Devil very much. I don't like the restraints on it. I think those weird shoulder straps don't work very well. The layout's not that great. Has a couple moments, but I mean, all in all, they're not the smoothest rides. For being brand new RMCs, if you compare Jersey Devil to something like Steel Vengeance, which I mean is kind of an off comparison, but just in terms of smoothness, the Raptors are not very smooth for being brand new rides. They kind of rattle around a lot. And I just don't think the model was very well suited for these big parks. But it was a cheap addition that Legacy Six Flags could just add. Yeah, not a fan of Jersey Devil, but I do think it is better than Runaway Mine Train. And now we have El Toro, which we've talked about already, against first appearance of Medusa, the first B&M floorless coaster. Medusa is a very solid ride. It has a very standard B&M style layout with pretty repeating elements. I mean, you have the vertical loop, 0G, Cobra roll, double corkscrew. Just kind of does the same thing that a lot of other big B&Ms do. Between these 2, it's El Toro. And then bringing King to Ka into the mix, it's going to be Ka as well. So now we have Talent, Dorney Park against Green Lantern at Six Flags Great Adventure. Green Lantern, of course, now also removed along with King to Ka. Solid B&M stand-up. Between the ones I have been on, I think Green Lantern probably maybe just above Mantis. And then Talent at Dorney Park is a very solid B&M invert, so that's the direction we're going to go there. Although between a Wild Mouse and then Green Lantern, I'm going to go Green Lantern. So Steel Force against Hydra. Hydra the Revenge, a very modern B&M floorless coaster. It was created after the pre-drop was kind of abandoned. It has a very unique layout. I like that the first drop isn't necessarily the lowest point of the ride. It uses the terrain to its advantage very well. Very unique layout. My problem with Hydra is it's very, very rattly. Not that enough that it doesn't make it a bad ride. It's still a good ride, but it definitely detracts, especially from being compared to the other B&Ms. Well, the other B&M in the park the first time I was there. Talon is a lot smoother than Hydra, and I think that kind of holds it back. And then the Morgan Hypers are just very solid rides, so that's the direction we're going to go. Although if we're comparing Hydra to Possessed, we're definitely going to go Hydra. Comet at Hershey Park and Thunderhawk at Dorney Park. Now, this is a battle of very, very old wooden coasters. I think Comet opened up in the 30s, and then Thunderhawk opened in the 1910s. Thunderhawk is a very, or 1920s, excuse me, not 1910s, 1920s. Celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2024. Kind of does some crazy things for a coaster that old. It has a couple swooping curved drops that you would not expect from a ride like that. And Comet to me just didn't do a whole lot. I mean, it's an old wooden coaster. What more can you expect? But Thunderhawk just kind of had some weird what the heck moments. So I think that's the direction we're going to lean there. Now we have a updated Boomerang against a B&M invert. Great Bear is going to be the obvious choice there. Although, between Super Duper Looper and Jolly Rancher Remix, if it was still just Sidewinder before they updated it to the Jolly Rancher theme, I would probably lean this way. But with the Jolly Rancher retheme and just how ridiculous the ride with the theming is with it, we're going to go that way. And between Laugh Track and Super Duper Looper, we're going to go with the classic Schwarzkopf. Now we have Lightning Racer. The Lightning side. It doesn't really matter much, though. I kind of hold those in very similar regards, even though I did pick the Lightning side originally. Against Fahrenheit. Now, Fahrenheit's a very interesting case. It's an Intamin vertical lift beyond vertical drop coaster. It's basically what a Gerstlauer Eurofighter or Infinity coaster is, but just having Intamin do it. Now, one thing with these two Intamin coasters at Hershey, both Fahrenheit and Stormrunner suffer from this. For whatever reason, the seatbelt attachment point is very, very high up on the restraint. Even compared to a ride like King Dakar, which has a very similar restraint design, Cedar Point, Maverick has those soft restraints on the same style restraint. I-305 has the same thing, now Pantherian. But the seat belts on Fahrenheit and Stormrunner are very, very tight. So if you're a bigger guy like me, it was a tight fit for those two coasters. Just something to kind of be aware of. On the layout side, it's solid, but it doesn't do anything that, let's say, Monster and Adventureland doesn't do. I wouldn't say it executes anything that Monster does better. I'd say Monster does it better. Fahrenheit just might have a slightly better hourly capacity. But in this race, I think I'm actually going to go with Lightning Racer. Fahrenheit's okay, but it just doesn't hold up, especially with what rides are around it now. But yeah, I'm going to go with Lightning Racer, both Lightning and Thunder. Now this is tough. This is tough. Sky Rush and Wildcat's Revenge. If we're talking old restraints, it's easily Wildcat's Revenge. I still like Sky Rush with the old restraints, but they were not horribly comfortable. However, we put the new Velocicoaster style modern Intamin lap bars on this thing. Absolutely phenomenal coaster. Between these two, I think I have to pick Sky Rush. The last time I was at Hershey Park, we were at Wildcat. We got our last ride on that. On the way up, I wanted to ride Sky Rush one more time. It was down. So we went to Candemonium, and it had a 2-hour wait. So I looked at my friends, and I said, hey, guys, would it be okay if we walked all the way back to Wildcat and got one more ride on that? Because at the time, it had a 5-minute wait. And gosh darn it, I'm so happy she said yes, that we could do that, because we went back and rode it again. But between these two, there's a reason I made Sky Rush the one I wanted to get on last, and that is going to be the case there. Stormrunner Wildcat's Revenge. Stormrunner, the hydraulic Intamin launching coaster. Unique layout, I will give it that. Same problem with the restraints that Fahrenheit has, where they're really tight. I really don't understand why. And then Wildcat's Revenge. Phenomenal RMC coaster. This was the first coaster. It was this and Airy Force 1 that Joe Draves took over from Alan Schilke. And you can see the differences between their philosophies. Wildcat's Revenge is very lateral driven. It has a lot of good airtime moments, but there's a lot of good lateral moments on it too. And I think the answer here is Wildcat. Twisted Timbers, King's Dominion, and Candemonium. Candemonium being the B&M Hyper located just at the very front of the park at Hershey. Very solid ride. Their operations on it for some reason can't seem to ever not triple stack it. And it only has 7-car trains. So that kind of holds it back a little bit. It's not the ride's fault. It's kind of the way they operate it. But I think for the most part, Candemonium is a very solid ride. Unfortunately, it's up against one of my favorite RMCs in Twisted Timber, so that's the direction we're going to go. But it is definitely better than a Mock Ride's Wild Mouse. Flight of Fear King's Dominion against Toombeely. Toombeely I would describe as Dragon Slayer, but worse. Toombeely is the shorter layout, 40 free spin from SNS, and unfortunately it just does not spin at all. I've ridden it multiple times. I think the most flips I've gotten on it is 3, compared to Dragon Slayer where I've gotten 10 plus multiple times. Dragon Slayer actually might be a question here, but between these two, it's Flight of Fear, no doubt. And I even have to go with Green Diamondback. Okay. This one is easy. Zambezi Zinger, while I have my issues with it, it's still a decent ride. I don't have any, reservations with it. I'm glad it's at Worlds of Fun. Nopuko Air Coaster at Lost Island is the worst roller coaster I have ever been on. And I can say that for a fact. There is a pothole at the top of the first inversion, that kind of that half loop into the double corkscrew into the second half loop that SLCs start with. There is a pothole on, I believe it's the right-hand side, that is just awful. And I just can't. Like, I've ridden it multiple times. In the left side, it's better. The operators there will tell you it's in the back, it's quite smooth. It's not. But it has the extra helix, so it's got that going for it. If that pothole didn't exist, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think it would actually be a pretty solid ride for them. But that pothole is so bad at the top of it. Like, it completely jolts. I remember when I rode it, it threw me forward, back, and forward again, all in like half a second. So the easy answer here is Zambezi. Easy answer, Flying Viking, because they don't physically hurt me. American Eagle Blue against Locolo, which is just a standard wacky worm. I really like that Lost Island has that. It's a nice kiddie coaster to have. But the answer is easily American Eagle and Max Force. So now we have Dark Knight at Great America against Whizzer at Six Flags Great America. I like Whizzer. It's still kind of crazy to me. If you go ride Whizzer today, it's the last of the Schwarzkopf Speed Racer, like big Speed Racer coasters. I don't remember what the exact model name is, but they are very, very cool. There's like kind of smaller versions where there's just 1 or 2 cars, but this thing, absolutely awesome. Just a classic ride. Open without seatbelts, which is just crazy to me. What the difference is in 1976 compared to 2025 or 2026. Kind of crazy also to think about. This ride's turning 50 coming up. Easy answer here is Whizzer at Great America. American Eagle against Batman the Ride. If it was a Batman clone, I'd probably pick American Eagle, but considering it's the original B&M invert, it runs so hot. I gotta go with Batman. Although American Eagle Red does definitely beat Flash. And I'd pick Viper over Flash as well. The Great America Viper, that is. Nitro at Great Adventure against Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Both of these kind of similar rides. Nitro, a longer ride. It's a little more tame compared to Mako, though. Although I do like that Nitro has the 9-car trains, so the throughput on this thing is absolutely crazy. But in the battle between these two, Mako's got to be my choice. Nitro Superman Ultimate Flight. I will take Nitro over Superman, and I would also take the Great Adventure Batman over Superman. Superman will go over Dark Knight. And the battle between these two clones, Joker at Great Adventure is kind of strange. Only a couple of them have the fin brakes for the rotation going up the lift hill. Joker is one of them. So as you're going up the lift, you'll hit a couple trims that'll rock you back and forth. But between the two, I walked on to Dark Knight. Joker had to wait a little bit for, and then Joker at Great Adventure also has the locker rule. So you can't take anything, even in zipper pockets, with you. You have to buy a locker and put stuff in it, or leave them with a non-rider if you don't want to get a locker. Between these two, I'd probably pick Dark Knight. Jersey Devil, wasn't a fan of. El Toro, I was a fan of. That makes that easy. Then King Ka, also very easy. Even Medusa over Jersey Devil, I think, is easy. Now, these I'd say are probably the top two at Dorney. Steel Force, very solid. Talon, also very solid. Between the battle of Mamba and Patriot, I mentioned this in the first episode. If Mamba was still trimmed, I think that would be a battle between Patriot and Mamba. I still think Mamba is slightly better. And I think both Patriot and Mamba are slightly better than their counterparts here. However, Steel Force is still trimmed. It's better than it was, but it is still trimmed. So the airtime hills don't hit quite as hard. And Talon, I do think, is better than Steel Force. So we're going to go that way. And between Green Lantern and Steel Force, though, we're going to go Steel Force. Between Hydra and Green Lantern, this one's a little tougher, but I think I am going to go Hydra. Green Lantern and Possessed. I'm actually Green Lantern here. Possessed just, if it didn't feel like it misfired on the launch, I'd like it more, but it just does not launch the way it feels it should. So we're going to actually go Green Lantern there, but I will take Possessed over the Wild Mouse at Dorney. Great Bear at Hershey Park against Thunderhawk at Dorney. Thunderhawk going to be 102 heading into 2026. Great Bear, though, is a better ride. Very unique for being a member, as I've said before. And then I will also take Jolly Rancher Remix over Thunderhawk. I'll take Super Duper Louver over Thunderhawk. I will not take Laugh Track, though. And I can't take Laugh Track over Comet either. Although, if we're taking Laugh Track at Hershey compared to a standard Wild Mouse, this was a battle between Phoenix and Adventureland and then a standard Wild Mouse. I can't remember which one it was, but I picked the Wild Mouse. I think it was it was Ricochet at Carowinds. But I picked Ricochet. In this case, with the indoor building and the theming around it, which I think is kind of cool. It's got like that old carnival feel. I think I'll pick Laugh Track, although the line is always like stupid long. Sky Rush at Hershey against Lightning Racer. Old restraints, new restraints, doesn't matter. It's Sky Rush. Same thing with Wildcat's Revenge. Phenomenal RMC. Storm Runner I'd take over that as well. Moving to King's Dominion, we have Flight of Fear and Twisted Timbers. Between these two, I would say Twisted Timbers is by far better. One of my favorite RMCs, without a doubt. Flight of Fear at King's Dominion against Candymonium at Hershey. I think we'll take Candymonium here. I think that's a pretty easy choice. And then between Apple's Apple and Flight of Fear, it's Flight of Fear. Between Green Diamondback and Apple's Apple, we got Green Diamondback, although I cannot pick Toonbeely over Apple's Apple either. So this one's an interesting case. I have my issues with Zinger. It does more than American Eagle does, but American Eagle is like I said, the limit of what the classic wooden coaster can be. And that's going to be my pick there. Max Force, I'm going to pick over Zinger as well. Just because the launch is that good. Although Zambezi against the Wacky Worm, it's going to be Zambezi. And then Flying Viking, I think, is just a souped up version that adults can also enjoy compared to what Lacolo is. So we got Fly Vi. And then, again, I cannot, in good conscience, pick this thing. It feels like someone could actually get hurt on this ride. So we're going to go with Lacolo there. Batman the Ride against Whizzer. I got Batman the Ride. American Eagle against Whizzer. I got American Eagle. Viper, I got to take. But I would take Whizzer over Flash Vertical Velocity. It probably wouldn't if Flash's holding brake still worked. Take Vertical Velocity over Dark Knight. Now we have El Toro against Mako. Again, Mako, very solid B&M hyper. But I think I've got to go with El Toro here. I mean, even though El Toro wasn't running the greatest, its airtime is just, the first two hills are just insane on that ride. And then King Dakar, one trick pony, but it's one heck of a trick. Between Mako and Medusa, I gotta go Mako. Between Nitro and Medusa, I gotta go Nitro. Between Batman the Ride and Medusa, the two basic layouts for each of their respective model, I gotta go Batman the Ride. But I would take Medusa over Superman. I will take Superman over Jersey Devil. Although I will take Jersey Devil over Dark Knight. And with its Triangle Hill, I'll take Runaway Mine Train. Skull Mountain, like I said in the back seat, airtime is actually crazy. So we're going to go Skull Mountain. Great Bear and Talon. So we got the battle of the B&M inverts here. Great Bear, very unique layout. But I think Talon has a more complete layout. And I like the color scheme better. So that's the direction we're going there. Great Bear and Steel Force. This is probably pretty close. Thinking about it, I think I will go Great Bear, though, just because of the interaction it has with the other coasters around it, like Super Duper Looper, Comet. Even Sky Rush, it kind of interacts with a little bit. Steel Force against Jolly Rancher Remix. We're going Steel Force. We're going to take Hydra over Jolly Rancher Remix. I will take Jolly Rancher Remix over Green Lantern. Oh, I'll take Green Lantern over Super Duper Looper. Possessed. Again, if it didn't misfire, I probably would pick it, but we'll take Super Duper Looper. I shouldn't even call it misfiring. It doesn't launch. It's an older version of the Intimate Impulse. I think it opened before Flash or V2 did at Great American. It opened before Steel Venom did at Valley Fair. So it might just be the way it's designed to do that, and they just perfected it further down the line. But I will take Possessed over Thunderhawk. I'll take Thunderhawk over the Wild Mouse. I'll take Comet over the Wild Mouse. Laugh Track again, we're going to take over Wild Mouse. Now here's a battle that you could really go either way on. The Hershey Park Wild Mouse, the Dorney Park Wild Mouse. They do the exact same thing. However, the Mauer cars, or not the Mock Rides cars are better than the Mauer cars, so we're going to go that way. Ooh. This is tough. Twisted Timbers, Sky Rush. I wish I could ride them back to back just to kind of get a good, to ride them again, just to kind of get a good taste for both of them again. But Twisted Timbers, the airtime on this thing is just so good, but I could say the same thing about Sky Rush. Twisted Timbers, I think, is a longer ride. And then I also like that Twisted Timbers has the free lockers, so I don't have to worry about my item, like the stuff in my pockets. Even if they're zipped shut, it's nice just to not have to worry about it at all. And honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of the Gen 2 RMC trains. And I like the theme that Twisted Timbers has, although Sky Rush's airport theme also is pretty good. I think personal bias is going to lean me towards Twisted Timbers, although Sky Rush, in the Battle of the Hershey Park Hypers, Sky Rush is the winner there. Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey against Candemonium. It's Wildcat. When we were given the option to wait 2 hours for Candemonium or 5 minutes for Wildcat's Revenge, even though it meant walking all the way back to Wildcat, there's a reason we walked all the way back to Wildcat. Stormrunner and Candemonium. I know a lot of people would probably pick Stormrunner here. However, the hydraulic coasters are just so short, and Stormrunner doesn't have quite the same punch that, say, a Top Thrill or a King to Ka have. So I'm actually going to go Candemonium here. I do like Candemonium a lot. Flight of Fear, Stormrunner. If Stormrunner didn't have the seatbelt issue where I was worried I wouldn't fit on it every time I rode it, I'd probably pick Stormrunner. But I'm going to go with Flight of Fear here. But Stormrunner is without a doubt better than Matsugani. I'd take Lightning Racer, both Lightning and Thunder, over Green Diamondback. And I would take Fahrenheit over Green Diamondback as well. So now we're at American Eagle Blue Side against Batman the Ride at Great America. And Batman the Ride's going to take it here. American Eagle Red and American Eagle Blue. I mentioned before that I like the blue side better, and I do. The blue side is a little bit different, and I really hope I don't have it backwards. I'm pretty sure I don't. But the blue side, I believe, is the side that runs closer to the park. So when you finish the helix, so it runs on the outside of the helix, you fly through the structure of the first half of the ride, and then you hit the final airtime hills and hit the brakes. If I have that backwards, correct me in the comments, and I will correct that and just replace them kind of in your head, but I'm going to go with the blue side. Between Max Force and American Eagle Red, I picked American Eagle Blue. I got to do the same here because it's a complete ride. Viper Max Force, I got to pick Viper. If Max Force, again, one trick pony, and the trick is really, really good. Like I said, it's the best launch. However, the layout, like, you don't get the going up 400 plus feet that you got on Dragster or King to Ka with Max Force, unfortunately. Between Max Force and Whizzer, though, I'd probably have to pick Max Force. And this is an interesting matchup right here. We have Whizzer, the Schwarzkopf, and then Zambezi Zinger, the GCI take on essentially what is Whizzer. I like Zinger, and I like the layout on Zinger a lot. If it was smoother, I think it'd be easy to pick this. But between the two, if I'm given the choice, I'm gonna ride Whizzer. But if I'm given the choice between Zinger and the Flash, or an Intimate Impulse, I'm gonna pick Zinger. Flash is going over Flyby, Dark Knight, and Flying Viking. I gotta pick Dark Knight. Joker, Flying Viking. I'm gonna go Joker. Great America, another one of those basic layout SNS free spins. El Toro and Talon. El Toro is going to be my answer there. King Daka and Talon. It's going to be King Daka. Mako and Talon. It's going to be Mako. Nitro and Talon. This is a little bit closer. I like the upwards helix on Nitro. I'm not the biggest Nitro fan. I think the reason for that is because it's kind of like the counterpart to Raging Bull at Great America. And I like Raging Bull that much more. And I think that unfortunately works against Nitro a little bit. But in this battle, I think I'm going to pick Talon. Although a Great Bear against Nitro, I will pick Nitro. Batman the Ride versus Great Bear. If it was the Batman at Great America or another one that we'll see in the future, I would probably pick Batman. However, Great Bear is also just very unique. I like the Batman layout a lot, but the one at Great Adventure does not run as hot as the other ones that I'm thinking of. So in this case, I think we'll go Great Bear. And Steel Force and Batman, I gotta pick the Batman layout. However, if we're looking at Medusa and Steel Force, if it wasn't so trimmed, I think this would be an easy choice. However, I do have to lean towards Medusa, I think. Superman Ultimate Flight against Steel Force. Depending on how many trains you're running on Ultimate Flight, this would probably make a pretty big difference. But the flying position, once you hit the brakes, it just kind of is like, okay, is this done yet? And you don't really get that on Steel Force, and I really like the Morgan trains of Steel Force. They're very different rides. But I think I gotta go Steel Force there. Between Ultimate Flight at Great Adventure and Hydra, I think I'm gonna go Hydra. And Jolly Rancher Remix against Superman, I gotta go Superman there. And this one might ruffle some feathers. Again, not a fan of Jersey Devil. I don't like the RMC single rail trains like at all. And I've ridden another single rail that I'm not. It's good, but the trains I think hold it back quite a bit. I'm gonna go Jolly Rancher Remix. And part of that is just the ridiculousness of like the Jolly Ranchers in the station. It yells grape at you when you go through, or one of the flavors. But we're gonna go that way. Between Green Lantern and Jersey Devil, I gotta go Jersey Devil. Runaway Mine Train, Green Lantern. That's tough. But I think we will go. I think I'm gonna go Runaway Mine Train, actually. It has that weird arrow triangle hill, and I'm a pretty big fan of mine trains. Green Lantern Skull Mountain. I think I gotta go Green Lantern there. Super Duper Looper Skull Mountain. Skull Mountain is a one trick for me because of that first drop in the dark in the back that I just was not expecting at all. And we just happened to pick to sit in the back. We had no idea what we were running into with it. But I think between these two, I gotta go Super Duper Looper. I gotta go Possessed. I think I gotta go Thunderhawk. Comet. Actually, I think I'll take Skull Mountain over Laugh Track, though. That one might be a little bit interesting. Dark Knight, Laugh Track, I gotta go Laugh Track. This is funny because Dark Knight is Wild Mouse. They're the same ride, but Dark Knight has theming, and that's gonna win out here. Joker and Wild Mouse. I think I gotta go. I'll go Joker on that. We have Batman at Great America against Twisted Timbers. Again, Twisted Timbers is one of my favorite rides. It's going to be Twisted Timbers. Sky Rush. Wildcat. Candemonium's a little bit harder. And I think I'm actually going to go Batman the Ride for that. Candemonium against American Eagle. I think I'm going to go Candemonium there. I think I got to go Flight of Fear. Storm Runner. I think I got to pick there. For comparing American Eagle to Lightning Racer, I'm going American Eagle, both red and blue. And I think I'd also pick Viper over Lightning Racer and Max Force. Whizzer against Lightning Racer, we'll go Lightning Racer, Lightning and Thunder. We'll go Fahrenheit. Whizzer and Green Diamondback. I gotta go Whizzer. I'll go Zinger. Flash Vertical Velocity. If this was Possessed, I'd probably pick Green Diamondback, but I gotta go with Vertical or V2. Dark Knight, Green Diamondback. We'll go Green Diamondback there. Between Dark Knight and Apple's Apple. Again, very similar rides. I like the theme of Apple's Apple. I mean, as much as there is, they kind of colored the cars. The station's still the exact same as when it was Ricochet. But I gotta go Dark Knight at Great America. Although between riding a free spin or a wild mouse, I pick a wild mouse. We got 2 free spins here. If this was Dragon Slayer, it'd easily be Dragon Slayer. But Tomb Beely just does not spin at all, and you get a lot of uncomfortable. Like I mentioned in my previous video, you get held upside down over some of those Raven turns a lot. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, so we'll go Joker there. Flying Viking, Tomb Beely. Probably will take Flying Viking just because I don't like the experience of being held upside down, and Tomb Beely just does not run very well. If this was Flying Viking and Dragon Slayer, it'd be Dragon Slayer, no question. Although between a Wacky Worm, it's going to be Tomb Beely. Now here we go. Here's a really good matchup. El Toro has 2 of the most insane ejector airtime hills you'll ever experience. Has a phenomenal first drop that delivers insane ejector in the back row. Twisted Timbers, though, has 3 incredible ejector airtime hills back to back to back. And Twisted Timbers does not have the roughness problem that El Toro has. If El Toro gets fully retracked with new rails from Intamin, I think El Toro would win. However, right now it's Twisted Timbers. Between El Toro and Skyrush, same thing. I like Skyrush a lot. The new restraints help it a lot as well. So I think we gotta go Skyrush there. Between El Toro and Wildcat's Revenge, again, there were a couple moments. One of my friends and I, when we went to ride El Toro, he literally disliked El Toro so much. I mean, the potholes on El Toro tweaked his back. And it hurts so bad because you know how good that ride could be if they replace some of those track rails. And they are doing that. I know they've ordered some new Intamin rails from Intamin, some new prefab rails. So I really hope they get a lot of those in because I really want to go back and ride it again after they get some of those replaced. But for now, I got to go with the RMZs because they're so much smoother. El Toro, Batman the Ride. That's easily El Toro. Great America's Batman against KK. It's going to be King Daka. Between Mako and Batman, though, I got to go the OG Batman the Ride. Mako and Candemonium. These 2, I believe, opened the same year. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Mako, I think, is a better version than Candemonium is. I think Mako's a better ride, so we're going to go that way. We're going to go with Talent Dorney over Candemonium. This is close. This could be about a 50-50 shot. I've ridden Nitro more. Nitro usually had a shorter wait. Candemonium also a pretty solid ride, although between the 2, the airtime off the back and the 9-car trains, I think, puts Nitro over the edge. Between Candemonium and Great Bear, though, we got to go Candemonium. Flight of Fear and Great Bear. I like the King's Dominion Flight of Fear a lot. I think it runs better than the one at Kings Island does. We're going to go that way. Stormrunner, I got to pick over Great Bear. American Eagles, I'm going to pick over Great Bear. Viper, we're going to pick over Great Bear. Max Force has one heck of a trick. We'll pick Great Bear over Lightning Racer, though. Then I think we're going to pick Batman over Lightning Racer as well. Medusa and Lightning Racer. This one's pretty close. I do like the racing element of the Lightning Racer. And I think that's going to lead me that way. So we're going to do that. Fahrenheit against Medusa. Both kind of do the same thing, although Fahrenheit is smoother. It has a little bit of a rattle. I can't even necessarily say it's smoother. I think they're about the same. And Fahrenheit usually has a longer line. And I just don't think there's anything Fahrenheit does particularly better than Medusa does for its lower capacity. It's a good, solid ride. And the airtime in the back row is really good. But Medusa, these B&M floorlesses are just such solid coasters. And the problem with a lot of them is they're built at parks where they're overshadowed like crazy. I think I'm going to go with Medusa there. Though I will take Fahrenheit over Steel Force. I think I'd take Steel Force over Whizzer. I'd probably take Hydra over Whizzer as well. Given the choice between a Superman clone and Whizzer at Great America, I'd probably pick Whizzer actually. Zambezi, Zinger, and Superman. I'd take a Superman clone. I'd take Zinger over a Boomerang. Flash Vertical Velocity, the Intimate Impulse. It's kind of a battle of the two standard clones from about that era. There are a lot more Boomerangs built, obviously. And if this was Possessed, I'd probably lean this way. But Flash launches like I feel like it should. Like Steel Venom at Valley Fair and Flash actually do launch like an Impulse should, so we're gonna go that way. Between Green Diamondback and Jolly Rancher Remix, I think we're gonna go Jolly Rancher Remix actually. Now this is kind of funny. So the other RMC single rail I've ridden is actually at this park. And compared to Jersey Devil, I'd pick the other single rail over Green Diamondback, but we gotta pick Green Diamondback here. Dark Knight, Jersey Devil. I gotta go Jersey Devil there. I'd take Runaway Mine Train. Green Lantern at Great Adventure, I'd take over Dark Knight, either of them. I'd take Super Duper Louver over Dark Knight just because of the historical aspect. It's smooth, it's fun, it's a good first looping coaster. I'd take Possessed. Thunderhawk, I would also take. I would take Comet. And actually, I would take Skull Mountain too. That airtime in that back row was no joke. It was so good. Between Dark Knight and Laugh Track, I think I'd take Dark Knight. Apple Zapple, Laugh Track. I gotta go Laugh Track. Dark Knight at Great Adventure against Apple Zapple. Again, just a themed version. So we'll go that way. Apple Zapple the Joker. I would take Joker. Now this is just a battle basically of which layout I prefer between the two. I like the uniqueness of the King's Dominion layout, so we're gonna go that way. Joker at Great America, Wild Mouse will go Joker. Flying Viking or Wild Mouse. I like that Flying Viking's unique, but it's just so short. It's a very short ride. It's a drop, 2 small hills, and 2 helixes, and you're done. So I'll take Wild Mouse, both of them, and that locks it up. It's kind of interesting how anticlimactic the ending is, where it just shows you the list. But here we are. The 10 coasters moving on to the championship round. Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. Sky Rush at Hershey Park. Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park. El Toro at Great Adventure. King Dakar at 5th is interesting, but that's also moving on. Batman the Ride at Great America. Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Talon at Dorney Park. Nitro at Great Adventure finished higher than I thought it would. I thought that would be further. I thought that'd be around 15. That kind of surprises me, actually. And Candemonium also makes it in the top 10. That's another one I thought would be lower. So that's kind of interesting. And this is why I wanted to do this series. I'm just kind of, this is, the first 2 lists were pretty like, yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense considering my thoughts on those rides. But this is a little different. Now, of course, if I shuffle the deck of all the coasters I've been on, it might turn out different. That's kind of the crazy thing about this. But based on the way it's set, just going 50 by 50, here we are. Any other surprises in here that I was not expecting? Max Force at 16, I thought that might be a little bit higher. The American Eagles and Viper right next to each other is kind of funny because I would probably put them like that. Batman the Ride at Great Adventure, that's funny to me. The first Batman at Great America is 12 spots ahead, and it's true. I like the Batman at Great America more. It runs hotter, it runs faster. Batman at Great America in row 8 just hits harder than Batman at Great Adventure in row 8. Got the Lightning Racers, we got Medusa. That's pretty far down. I wasn't sure that would finish that far down. The difference between Steel Force and Mamba is also pretty funny to me. Steel Force being this low when they got the exact same controls upgrade. But Worlds of Fun just decided not to run the trims is also pretty crazy. Hydra. Wizard's pretty far down. It finished right in the dead center. I think it's pretty accurate. We have Great America's Ultimate Flight. Jolly Rancher Remix is further down. I thought I picked that a lot, considering where its final placement was. Green Diamondback, Jersey Devil. I thought that'd be lower. I really did. I was not a Jersey Devil fan. Runaway Mine Train, Green Lantern. Super Duper Looper Possessed. Thunderhawk, Comet. A lot of the older wooden coasters are down here. And no Puko. The funny thing is 2 Lost Island coasters at the bottom. Locolo, it's not really that ride's fault. It does what it's supposed to just fine. I don't have any issue with it. No Puko is just not good. And then the comparison to where Toonbeely finished and Dragon Slayer finished. But there you go. There's our 10 that are moving on to the next round. If you made it this far, again, thank you very much. If you made it this far in all 3, that's actually pretty incredible. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll start again next Monday, continuing down our list and sorting it out. We still have 2 more flights to sort out. So we have Flight 4 and Flight 5, and 5 will be a little bit shorter because there's only 40 or so in that one. But we're just about there, guys. I'm really excited to see where my top 50 ends up. Thank you again for tuning in. I know I've said that already, but we'll see you all in the next one.